Help! I feel like I'm on a sinking ship. I've been working really hard on this product. We are struggling to launch it. My team, well, they're fighting left, right, center, and my budget, don't even ask. This is a question that many leaders out there, whether you are a startup founder or someone just running a project or initiative for your company, this is a scenario that happens time and time again. So what do you do when something that you're really passionate about, that you've been working really hard on, is just not launching? You are not launching your products. You are not delivering your projects. Well, if you feel like that, whether you are a startup founder or just a member of the team or the person responsible to get this product or this project to the finish line and you are really struggling, then this episode is for you. Today, in this episode, we are going to go through a real life case study, a real life example of what happened to one of my clients so that we can start tackling what is it that they did wrong, what are the problems they encountered on the way, so that you can pick those up, check whether it applies to you, and of course, as I'm the Mary Poppins of business and startups, then I will also give you the tools to deal with those issues. Welcome to the Mary Poppins of Startups live show. I'm Naili Makangu from Athena Leaders, an organization that is passionate about helping startups dream, build, play, whilst leaving behind the legacy of a happy and productive workplace playground where projects get finished and delivered on time and budget. So our products as well. A reminder for those who are new to the show. This is not a monologue. If there's anything that you're excited about, anything that you've heard that is really perking your interest, well, do mention that. Any question, do ask. If you're watching on replay, hashtag Athena Leaders. We answered live and we also track you down so that you make sure that you get the answer. If you know someone, especially bearing in mind that this episode is going to be very powerful and this is a scenario that many organizations out there, especially small companies, struggle with, please just share this episode. That's all you need to do to make sure that you are sharing the good news to those who are also struggling. And more importantly, if you are kind of quite busy, please do. I will suggest that you reduce the distraction, paper and pen, because I'm sure there's going to be lots of notes for you to take. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. As I've mentioned in the introduction, we are going to walk through a real life scenario. Of course, when I was preparing for this live show, and especially with my background, I used to be a software engineer. I worked a lot in the product development work, and I eventually went into leadership, starting with technical project management, running programs. A lot of the things that I'm going to mention today really applies to companies of various sizes, whether you are a startup all the way to small SME and large companies as well. I've really pulled out my knowledge based on my own experience as an employee, as well as someone running the company and as a consultant as well. So today, I really wanted to bring this live for you. And the reason why I'm using a real life example is simply because there are just many scenarios out there of why a product can go wrong or a product launch can go wrong. And if we can look through the eyes of people who struggle through that, I hope that you can get some values out of that. Now, today what we're going to do, we're going to look at the three main aspects that I talk about a lot, and the three main aspects that's where we can encapsulate the issues that people are facing. Those are processes, products, and people. Processes. Why are processes an issue? Well, let's look at the context. My client was a small company of 50 plus people, and I absolutely love what they used to do. For many years, they've been successful in their field, running most of their assessment and the work that they were doing manually. Now, it got to the point where that wasn't good enough. They wanted to start the digital revolution as part of within their own company, so that they can simplify some of the processes, reach out more clients, and more importantly, standardize the way they were running some part of their businesses, so that they can offer exactly the same high-level quality service to every single individual in the company. So the vision was beautiful, and I absolutely loved it. Unfortunately, some of the weaknesses there was the fact that this was the first time that they undertook such a huge digital transformation. Of course, they had product manager in the past in the companies, but it's a bit of a shift going from a product that is run manually. Of course, by manually, you don't have a platform to run it, to the way they were wanting to run that with a dedicated platform for them, where they were plugging their users, their partners, the company. So it was a big thing, and it was very, very exciting. One of the few things that started going wrong was that, of course, the deadline started slipping. It first started with, we are going to launch this very quickly, at least the first part of the product. The date came and went by and nothing was launched. Then it was new dates and new dates and new dates. And of course, because the stage kept on going for long, the product team starting to struggle because they lost their credibility within the company. And I don't know if this is something that you face, if you're someone running a project, and because of so many issues and people don't really understand your world, but because they've been disappointed so much, and they kind of lose their faith in you. And of course, it's not about blaming the people who lost their faith in you, because their work is also surrounding your work, right? When we talk about a project launch, or when we talk about delivering a project, there is an impact on other people. So if they know they've been told to expect this on these certain dates, they're probably been ready for that in the background. So imagine every time someone getting ready and things do not happen. So those were some of the first issues that people have, that the company was dealing with. Because the product lost their credibility and there was a lot of issues, then you then go to the second level of office politics becoming big, the level of stress increasing, the budgets, let's not talk about that, because the more you late, the budget is just money being spent and spent and spent. And sadly for the CEO, he was in a position where a lot of the board was asking a lot of questions, investors, the partners, the team. It was not nice enough for the CEO. It was not a good situation for the leadership team as a whole, for team members, and especially those running the product team and also working the product team. When I was called, and I thought, okay, I love your vision and I can see why you're struggling. Of course, whenever I start working with my clients, I start asking questions, right? So the first step, if you are ever in that point, is to start trying to understand the bigger picture, to zoom out from the day-to-day so that you can really have a deep feeling of what's going on. I did a lot of interviews with different members of the teams. What I loved was that every person I spoke to loved that vision and they were behind that. But the problem wasn't the vision, it was the execution of the vision and the fact that they were left in the dark. And the word that kept on coming back was, there's a lot of work to do. We are doing a lot of things at the same time. Is that you? Have you ever felt that way, whether you are part of a team or you are part of the leadership team, and you believe that there's a lot of things that's happening, but you don't have a handle over it or even understanding of the complexity of what's going on? That leads us to the first advice when you look at processes, what are called project governance. Now, I know what you are saying. Processes can be a dirty word, especially in small tech companies, where this idea of agile, of being really free-flowing is exciting. I strongly believe in being a free-flowing company where people are empowered. They come to work, they play because they just love what they do. To be able to do that, you need to have a small amount of processes so that people know what they're doing and what's going on. My favorite questions, and I'm sure if you've been following me for a while, you're probably fed up of that question, but it's one question that is valid and I ask time and time again whenever I start an engagement with a client. If I was to wake you up in the middle of the night, or anybody wakes you up in the middle of the night and ask you the state of the projects that are running in your company, even I can simplify the question. If I ask you the number of projects that are running in your company, would you be able to tell me straight away? For a small company, that shouldn't be that hard to do, but it's one of the hardest things to answer, especially from the leadership team. And that's where lies the first problems of why your products are not launching or your projects are not finishing on time. What you don't track do not get measured. If you don't have a simple way to just look up and have a list of what is running in the company, then how do you know whether you have the right amount of capacity to be able to work on those projects? If you don't have a simple place where you can find out the progress of those projects without having to pick up the phone or going in meetings, how do you know that you are working efficiently? And more importantly, especially if you are working on an initiative that is going to change the current world as you know it for you internally and externally, which is the case when you are digitalizing, then other members of your team also need that information so that they can be ready to change whenever whatever is being promised has been delivered. So the first thing, if this is you and you're listening to this and you're wondering, wow, yes, we don't have that view, is to sit down. So that's what I did. I sat down with a representative of every single team to get them to list, what is running, whether they believe it's projects or not. Then we map it out, remove what is kind of just a normal standard day-to-day job, and we looked at what we believe was projects. We then creating a long list for the leadership team. And from that point, we went on level number 2. Now that we know what is running, how are you sharing information between departments? The issue that I see with people who run projects, and again, it's something that back in the days when I first started my careers, I'm sure that I did the same mistake, was that we tend to be really engrossed in what we are doing, right? So it's our world. I know the details. Anyone can ask me at any moment, what's the number of the change request or what is the risk? I can tell you just like that. I will know if we're going to be delayed, but sometimes we forget that other people might want to know that information too. So for example, if I believe that in 2 months, I'm going to need more resources for one reason or another, what about flying up early or letting people know that this risk is coming so that they can prepare as well? One of the easiest way that I did that with that team, because this was one of the biggest problems. Now, when they saw the level of project that was running, they were like, wow, we are doing way too much. And they realized that this was causing issues with capacity and not having the right resources, the right number of resources in the team. We then put together a simple tool online. And for anyone who's interested in tools, please let me know. And I'm happy to either do another video on that or just speak to you directly. We put simple tools where first, regardless of the level, whether you are an executive or a team member, it doesn't matter. You could log in and see the initiative, the main project that are running, and we rank them by priority. So for example, for the priority for this company was they were doing a massive rebranding, which was a huge amount of resources from every single department, in addition to wanting to launch a big product in 2 or 3 months, not in 3 months, about 2 months' time. So having that on one page made them realize that those are 2 priorities that were already conflicting. And because of that, we are also starting doing basic project governance. So at the end of the week or every 2 weeks, everyone running the project will write down a small update on what they've been working on. Then they will review their risks associated with their project. This way, the leadership team, when they come together, they don't have to discuss all the projects in details. They have experts in the company that does that. But then they look at the section that talks about risk and problems. If maybe we think that the date will slip, they will look at the reasons why, and then they can analyze and see how to change maybe the goals, how to bring more resources, how to change the plans. But how can we deal with those risks before they become reality? So this is another reason. And I know anyone listening to that are wondering, is that really going to help me with my products or my projects? The answer is yes. Some of the time when we are in the place where you feel like the boat is sinking, we are focusing on that particular hole that we can see. Yet maybe there are other holes that can be plugged. So if you are in a situation like this, then I will highly recommend that you really do this exercise. You will get very quick wins straight away that will help improve the feeling of belonging in the team, for people to really love the mission. You will improve the communication already and the transparency, because anyone knows that they can go, and when there's a slip in the deadlines, they know that it's happening and they can readjust themselves. And more importantly, you improve the collaboration, especially when we start thinking about sharing information between teams, which is one of the biggest problems that many companies struggle with. Again, if you wanted a bit more information on that, don't worry. As we've done in the past, we are going to have a transcript of this session on a blog post for you to work with your team. I will highly recommend that you send these videos to your team members so that they can pick up on the issue that you might not even be aware of, then come together, and that's a good starting point. I also have some tools that helps you identify the organizational debt. So those are issues that happens that you might not be aware of. They happen in different corners of your organizations, but when you look at them as a whole, there could be the reasons why your projects are not being delivered on time or your products are not being launched. So if you are in a situation, get in touch with me. And don't worry, we are now moving into second part, which is the product. And we are going to look at what happened within the product team, which meant that they could not deliver on time. As usual, any questions, you know where I am. The product. So what happened with the product team? Once I use my brain and help the organization first to change the way they were working so that we can have a bit more transparency and flow of the organization, I went to the team that was struggling the most and the team that was blamed the most, which was the product team. And of course, I was leading the team. I was the head of product. So I sat down with my product managers and I wanted to understand what was going on. It was fascinating because I could feel a level of frustration. They were expert, they knew what they were doing, but they were just struggling to get this on the other side. We are going to look at the people aspect and I will share my thoughts on that in a bit. But what is it that they were dealing with? First, there was this deadline in September where at least 5 products were meant to launch. And bearing in mind that we were already summer, I thought, for me, that was alarms bell ringing. When someone's tell you that we're about to launch a product in less than 2 months, and the other part of the organization have no idea what they are going to do to adapt and deal with that. There was no change management plans. There was no launch plans. The partners that delivered to clients had no idea what was coming. The customer service had no idea. For me, that's a huge, huge red flag. When we started looking into that, then there was the thought that there's not a clear strategy or a roadmap on how they were developing this product. Diving further with the team, I realized that they only had a limited number of software engineers, so pretty much one team that kept on working on a lot of things. Now, if you are not in a software world, some aspect of what I'm going to talk about will be a bit more jargonistic, but please bear with me as the general advice applied to your industry as well. So one of the biggest thing, again, I've noticed is that for people who are not, or companies that are not software companies or software startups, one of the problem is that they want to do a lot of things at the same time, but with one development team. And that is a big no-no. You need to be able, even if you run agile, first, again, upfront planning. You know me, I talk about upfront planning until you're going to be sick about it, because that is one of the biggest things, one of the biggest flaws in companies that are fast-paced and startups. You need to slow down and really understand how is the development team working. The other issue that they had is that they already launched a product and now they wanted to launch more products. Now, one of the things that people don't bear in mind when planning is the fact that when you have a product that's already live, you need to bear in mind that your development team will spend some of the capacity, some of their time will be allocated to fixing bugs or fixing issues on the platform that's already live. Which means that the amount of time you have, the split part that you have to do new developments will be reduced. As such, it's really important that you understand your funnel. So if you have 5 products that you are building that goes into a small funnel, this is the amount of work that the team is going to do, right? Do you have enough people or not? So this is something that I had to work with the teams, and you see that in many organizations. Whenever you find that there's a team that's struggling, or whenever you find that things are not working well, then find out where is the bottleneck. If you understand what the bottleneck is, then you can see whether you reduce how much you put in the funnel and you plan, you plan really well, or you kind of try to do things a little bit differently, right? So this is something that I'd like you to also bear in mind when you're looking at what you're struggling with the team. So the idea of doing too much with less capacity definitely will hit you really hard. There's no focus for any member of your team and things are not delivered on time. How do you fix that? So how do you change around or turn around this scenario where you have very capable product managers that feel stuck? One of the other things that I did was to sit with every single one of them, one at a time. And I'm sure they were like, oh my God, she's going to ask a lot of questions. Yes, I did ask a lot of questions. What we looked at was first, my first question was the September deadline. Is it true or not? Think a little bit about that, right? Yeah. Is it true or not that the September deadline is going to work? So when we start working on that, we literally, if you're going to sit on the floor, but whiteboard or virtual or not, it doesn't really matter. Just put some post-it notes and we started working through the big blocks of the project, what we believe things will go right or not. We started planning that out. Once we had an idea of what was left to build from a software perspective, I asked the question, what about the launch? The launch, yes. I know that you might not be project manager, but you, as a product manager even, you need to think about how it's going to launch. And if your company do not have any project managers, then it's something that unfortunately the product manager needs to bear in mind. So we divide a launch plan. We started thinking about, again, it could be something as simple as listing the people that will be affected and start working on what is it that each person is going to need. We start working on that. If you are not sure, ask them, bring them in the conversation, especially in a company where people have been hurting for a while. People know what they need and they are dying for the opportunity of you to invite them in the conversation. So if we are not sure what our customer service need, we just ask them, what is it that you are going to need when we go live? At the end of the planning, it was clear that we were not going to be able to do everything and launch everything by September, which, for me, even without the planning, I knew that. It was obvious. I mean, 5 products, 1 team. But we had the evidence that we can take to the leadership team. And that's what we did. We absolutely replanned everything, created a roadmap, moved my product managers and the work that they had to do in terms of research, customer-facing research, and actually looking at development, so that everyone was still busy moving with the product. But in terms of the pipeline for the engineers, it was also clear what was going on. Just that clarity really helped people feel empowered, and we can then negotiate different dates and actually update the company with the new roadmap that we created. If you are struggling and you are not launching your product, really look at all of those little aspects, work with the team, work with the people externally, and understand exactly what is it that you are not doing well. To finish off, one more advice. Beware of the shiny object syndromes. And that happens a lot, especially when undertaking a software product, new technology, and digitalization. AI, data science, blockchain, cybersecurity, all of those are very, very important technology that if you want to become a leader in your field is something that you need to consider. But does it mean that you need to consider it right now, right at this moment? There is a difference between having a long-term strategy and a short-term. And another thing that this company struggled with, they wanted to have some kind of predictable capabilities through AI and machine learning in their app, which I believe was a great vision. Up to that point, I was okay with it. The problem I saw was that they're already contracting a company to do like a proof of concept, and they felt like, yes, they could be good partners for us. And they were about to sign over £50,000 to actually start building some aspect of that integration with the platform that will bring on that additional intelligence, AI and predictability and stuff. Great. So my question was, every single thing that you add on top required time and money and people. We are already struggling really late. We haven't even built the platform that will generate the data that will then go into platform B, that will give you all of the intelligence. Why are you spending the money at this stage? You are a small company, you have limited budget, you are not Microsoft, you're not Google. You can't afford to do those 2 aspects concurrently, especially at the moment where there's a lot of negative conflict in the company that you need to deal with at the same time. So if you are in a situation where you have, especially on the leadership team, you have the pressure to bring on this new shiny technology, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. What I'm saying is that you need to look at the long-term planning. We want to be able to do that in 2 or 3 years. And this is where we are today. If we want to do that very quickly, we want to bring this new technology quicker, what is it that we need to fix in the short-term goals that will allow us to do that, right? So then you can move the time. It's up to you. It's your company, it's your business. You know what you're doing. But it's really about taking those decisions, bearing in mind what's going on in the company, bearing in mind what you are going to put on the side to allow something else to run. Those are some of the issues that we looked at when we come to the product aspect. So if it's you, I will really advise that you look at what kind of methodology that you are working on. What is your understanding of developing a software product? How are you bringing some aspect of project management and change management? How are you looking at the capacity, and especially when people are very busy and things are not moving? And again, as I've said before, so many times, upfront planning and the roadmap, we know the plan will change, the roadmap will change, the risk assessment will change. But knowing that before will help you to get better later on. If you have any questions so far, or if this is something that you feel like, wow, this is amazing, if I missed something, yes, you have. The processes part was at the first part. So if you are just coming online, please go back and look into that. And I also advise you that you share this video with other team members. Then you can sit down and go through what I've talked about and work with it together. If you need any help, you know where to find me. The last bit that we look at before we go back to designing a happy and productive workplace playground is the people. Again, if you've been following for a while, you know how passionate I am about helping people just enjoy life in general, but more importantly, regardless of how much stress, whether you're fast-paced, a startup, just enjoy doing that work within the boundaries of your organization. When you are not launching your product and projects are not moving forward, one thing that slows you down is how demotivated or disempowered your people feel. People who are excited will put 100% more. Of course, you can get people who are demotivated that still work long hours. That's true. But are they working at the same level of motivation and productivity as if they were motivated? So that's something to also bear in mind. And what did I see in my team? So when I took over, of course, because of the level of negative conflict, and especially because the product team was really at the center, there was this feeling of being really powerless. They knew that the September deadline wasn't the real one, but they felt like they were not being heard. Everyone raising a new deadline were faced with, this has to ship. So they're like, fine, we're just going to accept September, but we are telling you that this is not going to happen. So that was already something that put a lot of pressure, a lot of stress on them, and also on other departments as well. Even actually, in fact, one of my team members, when I joined, already told me that he was ready to leave, even though he loved the company and he loved the role the thing that he was working on. So how do you help with that? And how do you deal with this level of feeling demotivated, right? First, you start with your current team and then you expand. Because if that team feels like that, then you pretty much sure that their communication and collaboration with other teams are affected. People are in silo, they're trying to protect us. It's more like the focus is not on what is going wrong, it's on who is making a mistake, there's a blame culture, and that's really affects you, right? So I always start with my team and sit down and look at, here we are today. How did we get here? It's not about blaming, but let's look at what we don't like about the way we work. It's easy to go and point fingers and fix other people, but I genuinely believe, like, I start at home with my team and says, right, there are things that we don't do well. So for example, maybe if we had updated the other teams early on or brought them in our planning early on, they would have felt part of this journey that we're taking them. Okay, so how do we do that, right? We have values and a mission statement of the company. Which part of the mission and the value that you don't believe in? And when they raise things like transparency, I'm like, yes, we're fixing that to the processes work that we are doing. But you also individually needs to be accountable to the transparency that you're asking others by owning the messaging that you're putting out there and also sharing with other people. So that's kind of the work that we started doing internally, where I was really challenging my own team, challenging each one of us, including myself, and trying to think about how can we be better within our team in the way that we work and the way that we work with other people before we can even expect them to change how they interact with us. The second level is going to external companies and inviting them in the conversation. I will go to the marketing team and get them to talk to us. I brought some of my team member, just, over a coffee, tell us what you are struggling with. Tell us how you work. And then we find out that there was so many issues with the rebranding that they were dealing with. And their designer that was working on the rebranding was also the main designer on the product team. The person writing the copy or the document, the articles, or rewriting them for the rebranding was also rewriting some of the things for the product. So we thought, okay, this is a lot of weight on your shoulders. How about we hire people internally, contractors for the short term, whilst you are working on the rebranding? They are going to do all the work. And once the work is ready, we can have an hour call with one of your team members. Because you own the new brand, you can just do a quick review and tell us where we're going wrong. Are we really matching the new vision of the new brand, and those kind of things? And suddenly it was like, wow, that's amazing. And the marketing team was laughing and smiling. They're like, wow, this is a lot of work off our shoulder. And just like that, just by not looking at the blame and the people, like, we remember when you told me last week, and I remember when you told me last year, we focused on the problem and how we can help each other and together solve that problem and help improve the communication. And lastly, just to finish on the people, with all of the work that we've done by improving the processes, improving the product, and focusing on empowering the people, really asking my team, what is that you believe is right, giving them the keys to fixing their product rather than me doing it for them, they felt really excited. And I managed to one day, I think it was maybe about a month after I was working with it, my team member that wanted to leave came back to me, came in the office, is like, wow, Nelly, you have no idea what it feels like to just walk in here. I'm not hiding whenever someone is coming to my desk to ask questions because I don't have any answers for them. They know what the statuses are, and I can just focus on doing my job and trying to see how I can launch this product in September. And the other one, we've already delayed that. And it's a huge weight off my shoulders and reduced stress. So as you can see, this is something that if you're feeling like that, whether you're part of a team or you're a founder or you're a manager, then those are things that you can help your team members that are really frustrating just feel excited about coming to work and play just by working without any free food or nothing else. And of course, just to finish off on the story, and again, there's a lot of advice that you can take from this on the way to deal with people. But to finish off on the story, I had to bring also a real element of play. Because I knew of all of the journey the company took, and especially the hard work we did in about 3 months just to launch that product, and how we changed the culture of the company internally, and also we improved the communication between departments. The product team didn't need to go and hide when people came over to their desk, and the marketing team didn't need to pull their heads trying to think about how do we help product and rebrand. The customer service team didn't feel like that they were wasting resources, getting ready and nothing. And even our partners knew what we were doing, how to get ready for us to launch. We already had all the meetings booked, so they know what we've built and they can start and delivering that. How about we do a little bit of a celebration? Something small, low-key, low budget, just a cake that we brought into the office to bring the entire company together. And we have a cycle blender. The cycle blender where you put some fruits and you blend as you're cycling, you are blending. So you have a nice smoothie, a cake. All of the departments are talking to each other. And that was fantastic. And just to throw in a last bit of advice, even when it comes to celebrating something that one department has done, think about the fact that no department works on its own. A rebranding that works really well is a success of the entire team coming together. A sales team hitting their target is the work of the whole team working together. Us launching a product in September was the work of everybody coming together. So I brought everybody together to celebrate. And even that, I delegated celebration by getting representative of different teams as a really short committee to plan that day because I was really busy. There were so many things going on. And I know that that's not my strength. I just found people that love planning this kind of things, got them together, got us a small budget from HR that were more than happy to kind of spend less, and other people brought cakes for free, which was great, and we just celebrated together. So here you have it. This is a very powerful episode, in my opinion, because if you use some of the things that I've mentioned today, it will help you not just to fix your products and help it launch. deliver your projects on time and on budget, but also improve the culture of your company internally so that you can be excited, your people can be excited and empowered. You know where to find me online. If you have people who are struggling with this, regardless of the level they are in a company, please do share this episode for them to find out more. We will have a transcript on our website. And for anyone who wants details on any particular section or a checklist that I have on how to conduct a review of a company to find out some potential issues that are hidden, do get in touch with me. Hashtag Athena Leaders. In the meantime, let's design a happy and productive workplace playground together.